Coming up in this webisode of Waverly Village Council.
Tonight, Waverly residents are faced with one big increase in their sewer rates.
I don't think there's any way to argue that we don't need to raise the rates.
We're responsible for sewer, water, and the services that we provide our people. And we cannot do it by going in the hole.
People in my ward that have told me to not raise the rates.
I'm still wondering why I wasn't invited to the committee meeting. Was it because I'm not in favor of the raise?
You stated that at the last meeting, and we let it go without addressing that, and it hit the news media that we was holding all kinds of meetings behind everybody's back, which is not the case.
Called your cell phone, got your voicemail, left a message. I was at work and I asked you to call me so we could set up a meeting, and you never called me. I called you first.
We do not replace the sewer line, the main trunk line that runs down Bridge Street. There is going to come a time in the very near future that nobody in the city of Waverly is going to be flushing a commode. Now, that's not a pleasant situation.
When a person learns that they have cancer, it's overwhelming. Their life changes. I volunteer because of cancer in my own family. My brother had cancer, and I just want to give back what I saw done for members in my own family. SOMC Cancer Center has some advantages that I think you won't find other places. It's all here under one roof. The patients come in and out with smiles on their face. It's being done right here in our own little town of Portsmouth.
The SOMC Cancer Center. Very good things are happening here.
This is the third reading, and this is an ordinance to increase sewer rates in the village of Waverly. Any discussion?
Yeah, well, I got something to say about it. Tonight, Waverly residents are faced with one big increase in their sewer rates. I'm still wondering why I wasn't invited to the committee meeting. Was it because I'm not in favor of the rate increase? When the other members had these meetings with supervisors about utility rate increase, they had Nathan Davis' proposal to increase rates and had their minds made up to increase sewer rates. Since this was a utility increase, I feel the public should have had some input and notice of the meeting instead of going ahead and putting it in the ordinance right away. I heard the reason of increase is because people are moving out of Waverly. Why should the people of Waverly be penalized because people are moving out of Waverly and using less water and sewer? A lot of people are retired and on fixed income and cannot afford this increase. I believe in the old practice of staying in budget and just like the people do at their home. This council seems to think a lot of people in Waverly were born with a golden spoon in their mouth. Not so. A lot of people are on fixed income and simply cannot afford this increase. I think this council should start worrying about the village revenue and stop all spending and start cutting back, only using the bare necessities we need to do to survive. Council wonders why people are moving out of Waverly surrounding areas. Could it be because of the cost of living and taxes in Waverly? I'm asking this council to not pass the increase in sewer rates and listen to the people who cannot afford this. I will not support this increase. If this passes, I want to apologize to the residents of Waverly if the council passes that. That's all I have to say.
First of all, we do need to set straight the record for us that you did not miss any meeting. There was never a meeting held that you were not invited to. You stated that at the last meeting, and we let it go without addressing that, and it hit the news media that we was holding all kinds of meetings behind everybody's back, which is not the case. This is not a surprise to the city of Waverly. Nathan started this study 2 years ago. We have discussed it over and over and over publicly in council meetings and it was never held in a meeting that you was not invited to. Most of the discussion that took place in council chambers when you was present, and that's all.
I just want to make for the record, say one thing, at the last meeting that they had on the sewer increase, I was not invited to that.
They didn't have a meeting for us. That's why.
Well, you did too. The Utilities Commission, committee called a meeting on the sewer increase rates, and I was not invited.
Can you tell us the date of that meeting?
It was just 2 days before this ordinance was made out.
Dale, I called him on his cell phone and left a message asking him to return a call to me. I never received the call.
I never got on my cell phone or my answer service at home.
I called your cell phone, got your voicemail, left a message. I was at work and I asked you to call me so we could set up a meeting, and you never called me. I called you first. Then I called Tom. And Tom and I waited for your phone call, never got it. I called Tom back. We set up the meeting.
Now, the first meeting you had on the water increase, you did call me.
I did. I called you.
Yeah,
on the second
I got that message and I was here.
And
the second one you had, I did not get the message.
That's not my fault. I left a message on your voicemail for you to return my call. I left my phone number, my cell phone number on your voicemail.
It wasn't on my answer machine or my cell phone, either one. They're both.
It wasn't on your answer machine. It was on your voicemail on your cell phone. That's what I called.
Okay, is there any other discussion? And I mean, it's worthy of being said that no one really wants an increase, and I had spoken to Mr. Voorhees about it, and like I said, the only thing even possible, you know, I could see an argument with it would be the way to divide the rate to get basically to the same amount of money. You know, we have to do something. It would be more, I think, a disagreement on how to get there, if there would be any. I don't think there's any way to argue that we don't need to raise the rates in this case. So.
Well, I don't disagree with you that we don't need to raise the rates, but I have received many calls from people in my ward that have told me to not raise the rates. I'm not sure that I can, sit there and say, oh, well, I understand you, but I'm going to raise them anyway. I mean, these are people that employ me. We are here for the people. We are employed by the citizens of our ward.
Yeah,
and I can't sit here and say, if you say to your employer, no, I'm not going to do something, most employers will say, fine, you're fired.
But what I need to point out to you, and you need to understand this very clearly, if you are selling products for $10 and it costs you $11 to make them, what would you do?
Well, part of that.
I understand that. But if you tell your employer, I'm not going to do what you said, you're going to get fired. I mean, that's.
Brett, you were elected to run the city of Waverly and run it like a business and run it very effectively. It would be a very bad business decision to let our sewer department, if we do not replace the sewer line, the main trunk line that runs down Bridge Street, there is going to come a time in the very near future that nobody in the city of Waverly is going to be flushing a commode. Now, that's not a pleasant situation, and it is your responsibility as well as mine and every other council member to make sure that that does not happen. We know there are issues. We know that it has to be replaced. We paid a lot of money to have it cambered, and their exact response, and Adam can back me up on this, is we're surprised that it hasn't collapsed already. I mean, no one, as Greg said, no one likes an increase. But here's a point. No one is complaining to the gas stations that is 30 cents a gallon higher here than it is north of here. And you'll spend more money on 2 tanks of gas than you will spend in 1 quarter on your sewer. And, if we're going to complain about things being raised, we have to complain about everything. We live in tough times. It's not a pleasant time, and my heart goes out to people that's on fixed incomes. It is tough. But there's a lot of decisions that people have to make. Medicines is another one. But I mean, we can't address those issues. We're not responsible for medicines or gas. We're responsible for sewer, water, and the services that we provide our people. And we cannot do it by going in the hole.
Now, the conversations I've had with people too, it's the same concerns, but the underlying theme is we can't lose money to the rate. I mean, you still have an obligation to operate the city without running it into the red, at which point, if it goes far enough, we've had a couple cities within 35, 40 miles of us that the state has taken over their finances, and then if they would do that and they would set the rates, they would want to recoup all that probably within the first year, and they would be dramatically higher. It would probably take a couple years to get there, but and we've got two obligations, and both of them to the taxpayers. We have to operate without losing money. We still need to be self-sufficient, and it's a tough one, but I've had that conversation myself, like we all have. Any other discussion?
Well, I think it's important to recognize too that even with this increase, Waverly water and sewer rates are less than the average in the state. With this increase, the rates in Waverly will be what the state average was in 2009, 3 years ago. So we are still getting a bargain as far as our water and sewer rates are concerned. I think people should appreciate the fact that we are operating efficiently.
And as a council and as the department heads have always done, any increases have always been basically the minimum. I mean, they don't feel comfortable coming in and suggesting more, and we've always wanted to know what the minimum was, so we've held it there, actually in reality, longer than we should have. Which brings us to the increase today. Is there any other discussion? Call the roll.
Thompson? Aye. Dimlow?
Aye.
Bevins?
Can't do it now.
Patterson? Oh, he's not. Blakeman?
Nay.
Fisher?
Aye.
Kempton?
Aye. That passes.
Yeah.